busting out, busting out.
It is Tuesday, April 14th on the Dimer Sports Betting Podcast. Welcome back to the show. Dave, how you doing?
I'm great, man. It's a beautiful day. All of the baseball is at night. It cannot get any better than this. It is like a true gift from the baseball gods, from the betting gods. Everything's lining up for us. I'm ready for a good show. Dig into that slate and plenty more. We got pseudo playoffs in the NBA. It's a good time. Good time.
Yeah, the sports world just keeps on giving us gifts, it feels like. We move from one exciting thing to a new exciting thing. I feel like I was just at the Final Four 7 days ago because I was. And now the Masters has already happened. And now it's the NBA playoffs. And now we finally have the MLB slate of our dreams. We are going to talk home runs tonight in a way we haven't on this program before. I am looking forward to it. We've got RBC Heritage Classic for the PGA Tour. More on that later in the show. We'll give you a full NBA play-in preview, all 4 games over the next 2 nights. We'll get the full game treatment from us. But first, Dave, let's start as we always do with some things that you should have bet.
Should have bet that.
The head-to-head parlay from the Masters is the biggest win of last week's show. However, Patrick Reed simply couldn't close the deal for us. Tell him what happened.
Pretty frustrating considering he went +1 and ended up tied with Matsuyama. Had he simply gone even, we cashed the +700. It takes a slight odds chop to about 240, 250, depending where you bet it. But still, overall, a nice win from the model. We pit 3 live golfers against 3 PGA golfers where the matchups lined up. We had Patrick Reed, Tyrrell Hatton, and Rory over Bryson. That one was sweat-free as it was done by the cut. Hatton went on a nice run, and Corey Connors kind of stumbled, so those were pretty good. And then, unfortunately, it did come down to the last day, and we had to take a void of 1 leg, but still pretty good. One of my favorite tools to use for the golf model. Probably do something with it this week. I'll probably write an article up tomorrow. Won't be PGA versus live, but every time there's a major, I will be putting one of those together. It's one of my favorite things to do. You get some unique matchups that you don't get in almost every other tournament, so it's fun to kind of pit those golfers against one another, given the narrative and all that. A few other close calls. We had Colin Morikawa making a move late. He was our big boosted pick from like 4,200 to like 6,700. Ended up getting pretty close. Didn't close it out, but so far, Dimer's golf model's in a pretty good spot this season. Unrelated, but a number of plus money soccer bets from the site hit this weekend. I should have put the assets into this show. If anyone's curious, I'll pull them up. I have them all saved somewhere, but MLS and Premier League, bunch of plus money lines. A few teams priced over 50% to win, but at plus money with the draw factored in, and the model had an edge on those. And then some kind of unique home run angles. I did an article on this last year as well, and we ended up timing it perfectly with Vlad Guerrero Jr. hitting his first home run, where I wrote an article on the unluckiest home run hitters this season, just guys who have not quite hit a home run yet, but are getting good elevation on the ball, maybe getting unlucky with the parks and whatnot. Ronald Acuna Jr. was the top one. He hit a home run within like 4 hours of publishing that article. And then your guy, Riley Green, hit a 3-run tank the next day. I specifically highlighted how he's hit 3 or 4 doubles dead center, where in certain parks they would have been gone. And what does he do? He hits the 3-run nuke dead center, just maybe a little bit to right field, but way out of there, and he picked up his home run. No longer the unluckiest guys in the league. Fernando Tatis, Bobby Witt Jr., not quite working out for them. They're in that article too, and maybe they'll come around soon enough. But keep an eye out for those unique little angles. Lots of nice little nuggets and those things on site.
Maybe as soon as tonight, you never know. I have alerts on for Dimer social media. I saw that article come through and I was like, hell yeah, Dave. I was sitting at home this weekend like, I can't wait to add these guys to my card. And Mr. Warning Track Power himself, Riley Green, finally got one over the wall. I was looking forward to that. And you manifested it, my friend. We appreciate it as always. Quickly before we move to the next segment here, just in general, Masters thoughts. Rory goes back to back. He tried to make it interesting at the very final hole, just bombing his drive as far right as humanly imaginable. But it was good to see. We had Rory in the matchups parlay, as you mentioned. That was a no-brainer over Bryson, and I was just betting him individually every head-to-head round that we could. I got it twice before Bryson missed the cut. So are you surprised Rory came through? What do you feel in your heart after watching it happen?
Definitely not surprised. I mean, you have to almost now in retrospect, like think that the not getting over the Masters hump was so much more of a big deal for him, because as soon as he wins the Masters, he gets the biggest 36-hole lead there's ever been at the Masters the following year. Yeah, almost made it interesting. I don't know who made it more interesting, him or Scotty. Ended up finishing one off, was absolutely ridiculous. Would have been certainly the comeback for the ages. But no, it was really good Masters all around. Really fun, really entertaining. The last round was anybody's game, really. And it was a really good one. Sorry, Rory chopped your Sam Burns first round leader, but you got something out of it, right?
Yeah, I still got a very nice
split.
payout.
Yeah.
I had it, I think 60-1, ended up 30-1 with the split pay. So I'll take that win. It was great. But yeah, Burns, he fell apart. I out of honor for him cashing my first round leader bet, I kept betting him to win as the tournament went on, and he tied it on 1 in the final round, and then just immediately hit his drive out of bounds on 2. So fun tournament. The Masters is the best every single year. You know, I think I was onto something with my emotional handicap scout of Rory getting over the hump. We saw it last year. You know, let's go for that again. And I just convinced myself it was Tommy Fleetwood who would follow that arc this year. But instead, it was sitting right in front of us of like, well, he's free. Now he's practicing at this course every single week. I'm kind of regretting I didn't get more Rory coming in. But that's why the matchups model was nice. At least we both had some Rory McIlroy money to win this week. Very nice. All right, let's talk about somebody else who had some wins from this show a little bit and beyond. It's our Dimers Champ of the Week this week. It is our Dimers Pro Discord user, Yukon. He didn't get to watch his Huskies, your Huskies, win the national championship, but it's a pretty nice consolation prize when you cash a couple of parlays the way he did. Dave, tell them what they did.
Yeah, here's their little post in the Discord this morning. A pair of 3-leg NHL ones. I'll give you a little closer look at them. But plus 1686 with a nice little boost on FanDuel for Jake Gunsel, Jason Roberts, and Pavel Dorofeyev. 3 pretty regular Dimers model favorites. And then another one plus 3200, 100% boost. What a way to use that on what I believe is Wyatt Johnston, William Nylander, and John Tavares from those headshots. Yeah, really good stuff there. Way to capitalize on 2 teams that score a lot of goals and have a lot of talented players, and sometimes can be tough to nail down the right one. You know, hasn't been much Austin Matthews overall this season. I think he's been hurt for a good bit, may even be right now. But yeah, good snipes on Nylander and Tavares, who has been quite the addition for them the past few seasons while they've had him. But great to see regular user put the tools to work and come out with the fruits of their labors.
It's the best 32-1 ticket with that profit boost. Very nice. Good job, Yukon. We appreciate it. All right. Let's go to NBA next. But before we do, reminder, you can get a 3-day free trial going on right now of Dimers Pro. Only in the app. Get it there. You'll want to try this out. You want to use the tools the same way Yukon just did. Just go to the Dimers app. Give it a try. If you like it after 3 days, which you will, then come back to us and we'll tell you how to get another discount to get Dimers Pro forever. All right, let's go straight to the NBA playoffs, beginning with the play-in tournament. 2 games tonight, 2 games Wednesday night. We're going to go one by one through all 4 of these. Now, we should acknowledge at the top, obviously the worst teams are now done for the season. They have gotten their, I guess, to the finish line. Many of them wanted to get to, as tanking has become a problem for this league. But that kind of leaves the model in an interesting spot. You can always find value. The model is always finding value. But some of the teams we preyed on angle-wise in NBA coverage here are no longer available for matchups to do so. If you made it to this point in the season, you're a pretty damn good basketball team. So let's just acknowledge at the top that this may not feel the same way as it has in past conversations where it's like, we're going after this team again, but we can still find plenty of angles. So let's start with Heat Hornets, Dave, the low seed game in the East. What's the model saying here?
Pretty close overall, although it looks like the projected final score has moved just slightly in favor of the Hornets since this morning. But early model predictions have the Heat 53% probability to cover plus 5.5. Can be great value at its best odds, almost even money. There were some prediction market levels that were at in what you would consider plus money range earlier. Those look to be gone. Still getting almost even money on DraftKings at 53%, which is pretty sizable. Anything at plus money or right at it always catches my eye. With a spread, even more so when we have over a 50% probability on it. So the model certainly says that is a good look tonight. Pretty great edge, I believe, on the upset as well, barring any major changes in the odds, which is not the case. Almost 33% for the Heat to win, 2.3% edge. And then you have here on Novig, which is a prediction market. So these are converted odds, but at plus 230 worth of implied odds on there, which is pretty good. Right around fair odds at most places on traditional sports books, plus 200, plus 195. Fair price at 33% would be right on the dot, basically plus 200. So overall, pretty solid play on the Heat. You're not getting shortchanged anyway, which is nice. And then no edge to speak of, with basically a coin flip on the total. Props wise, it's really what I guess I would say EV focus, which it always is with the Dimers model. That's what it's designed to do, is find the edges. But I mean this in the sense that your most, if not all, of these probabilities are under 50%. Here's your closest one, Concanipple, 20.9 projected points, over 20.5, 50.9%. But a sizable edge because of these plus money odds on Fanatics, which is kind of a consistent thing across most of these games. They seem to have really good odds on there for these four matchups. But, if you're looking strictly for value, these props are loaded with them, but you are inviting this risk of under these lower probabilities. You got to hear an alternate line, it looks like. LaMelo over 5.5, but 40% to go over that. He's our top projected three-point shooter in this game at 4.5. And then you'll also see some of these are so purely based on value that our projections are not going to be aligned with them because it's looking at these plus money odds, like Con right here, only a 32% probability to go under 1.5 threes, but at substantial plus 340 odds. So you kind of have to play around with what you're looking for. You're not going to get very many 56, 57, 58% probability props for the most part in these games. Everything's just going to be a little tighter, kind of similar to what we saw in the NFL playoffs this past year. Probably something we'll see in the NHL playoffs as those probabilities get lower and things tighten up a bit. Projection-wise, there are a few things in here that I think are at least worth looking at. One of those we just spoke to, which would be the three-pointers. LaMelo is our top projected guy here at 4.5 of the entire night even. But this kind of stands out because it's also slightly higher than we had him during his really hot stretch in March and April. You can get 5+ is plus money, and then 4+ is minus 173, which is very juicy. So certainly seems favorable for him to go over 4.5. The books obviously pricing him at 4+ very, very strongly at minus 170 or so. Heat were ranked about the 6th worst out of teams remaining in the playoffs over their past 30 games against three-pointers made. So not the worst angle there. But I do think it's a notable projection that he's pretty much higher than he was in his big stretch. And then one other guy here, this was based off of a trend that I found in our NBA Trends page. Jamie Jacques Jr., nice little heater to end the season here. 15+ points in 7 of his last 10, 4 of those with 20+. Going back all the way to February, he landed on 14 twice, but then other than that, only games he went under 15 points were complete blowouts and then one bad shooting game versus Milwaukee. So his average ticked up a good bit down the stretch consistently, almost over the last month and a half. And plus 115 on Fanatics for over 12.5. And we've got him at 13.6. He's plus 200 or longer on most books for 15+. Which he was doing quite consistently down the stretch. So even taking his over is probably a solid play based on the projection alone, and pretty good odds plus money. And then, if you think he can do 15, which he was doing quite consistently, not a bad play either. But that's about all that stands out projections wise. Like you said, Greg, I don't think there's anybody I'm going to like, yeah, ladder this guy's props to the moon in any of these matchups.
Yeah, it's always this is the, I think, conflict of being a sports bettor. A lot of times the best edges are found in the most meaningless games. And it drives me crazy as someone who loves all sports, but I just like, you get to the big moments of the season, you get so excited, like, oh, I want to go as big as I've gone all year. I want more bets, the biggest card. And then you start actually getting into the weeds of it and you just can't force it. And that's the reality. Everybody in the play-in is good. A competitive basketball team, there's a lot of outcomes here that could happen.
Yeah.
So I think you laid it out nicely. I like the Jaquez angle. My personal favorite angle in this game is just Heat money line. And it sounds simple, but man, there's a history here. Eric Spoelstra in the playoffs is someone who I'm always interested in. Remember, this is a franchise that went from the play-in to the NBA Finals just a few short years ago. And if it feels like the Heat are always in the play-in, it's because they are. This is the fourth time in 6 years of the NBA play-in the Heat are here. And guess what has happened every time they've been here? They've advanced. They've never lost in the play-in and ended their season there. They make it to the round of 8 every time. And look, I think they've got, if I remember correctly, they're 4-2 because there were 2 years where they only needed to win one game to get through. And they went 1-1 in those years, but ultimately won the elimination game. Last year, they won 2 straight road games to qualify for the playoffs.
Yeah.
Like and then they got swept. Like, there is a caliber difference at a certain point, but man, you're looking at Charlotte, who has been such a great story this year, but it's a roster full of guys that have never played in a moment like this. And I just think the Heat have the best player on the floor, and Bam Adebayo. I think they have the much better coach, and they're very familiar with moments like this. Dimer shows a 2.3% edge. It's not the biggest in the world, but it's over 2-1, man. Like, I'm happy to just blindly bet Miami to come out victorious in this spot.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Charlotte's hot, great story. Are they about to dethrone the play-in champs? So no, I don't think so. I think that's a really good sharp angle, and I'll be on that with you as a straight for sure.
Love it. All right. How about Suns Blazers as the second of our 4 games to preview here? 2 teams that, man, I was wondering if both of them would end up in the play-in at various points. Like, Phoenix in general feels like a team that should always find a way to avoid this and just be firmly in the playoffs. But with how strong the West has been, I guess it's not that big of a surprise. And then Portland, I mean, this is a little bit of a step forward for a franchise that, since Damian Lillard left the first time, has really been stuck in no man's land. So, look, it's a playoff game. Both these teams want this, but this is a matchup I certainly didn't expect. So what do you see here? What does the model see here?
Yeah, it's a interesting note on Portland too, is that like they're doing this without a major superstar draw anyway. Donovan Clingan improving, with the young talent, and then getting Denny Avdija, who's completely blossomed into the best player he's been in his career here. So Tumani Kamara getting their fair share of contributions, and kind of a bit of a surprise to see him here. And you, like you said, you would think the Sun should avoid this generally, given their pedigree, but here they are. Model is pretty much all Suns in this one. Only 52% probability to cover, but this is a point higher of a spread than it is on most traditional books. It's around +1.5. So you're getting a higher number, but then you're getting the better price at that number. So model probably has more of like a 54%, 55% probability for them to cover the traditional spread at 1.5. Money line wise, 62% for the Suns, 38% for the Blazers. Not going to find an edge on Portland there. And then the over under, 52% to the over. This is the lowest total of the play-in, I believe, by about 4 points. And we have a very, very slim edge on the over at 1.1%. And you could play the classic little middle here with the slight edges, Blazers +2.5 and Suns money line. But even at the juice, the model likes the Suns, so it's feeling them pretty hard in this one. As far as the total is concerned, it is very low. Portland was 1 game over 500 to the over this season, and Phoenix had a losing record to the over. So it's just kind of a bit of a dicey spot, but obviously it's the lowest total of the 4 games. Pretty similar prop situation to Heat Hornets. Not going to find a ton of probabilities that are higher than 50%. Do have one here on Denny. And I know I did say you're not going to see a lot of 56, 57, 58% probabilities, but we do have one here. Over 6.5 total assists, 7.6 projected, plus 118 odds. Model really likes the value on him here. That's really good price too. This should be only like minus 120 or so at 56%. So that's really strong. Projections wise, there's one kind of angle that really stood out to me. Not normally the one we look at, but if you like unders, this might be one for you. Not projecting a lot of people for very many threes tonight. Blazers had like the best 3-point defense against guards this season, top 6 overall. Suns were top 4 overall and about 6th best versus guards. So barely projecting anybody on the Suns over 2. See Dylan Brooks, Colin Gillespie, Jalen Green, Grayson Allen, all 2.1 or 2.3 threes. Not much higher for the Blazers, only 2.5, which obviously you round up, you get to 3, but it's just at 2.5. It's not even like 2.6, 2.7. So I'm either not touching threes or I might try to do a little combo of unders on guys, but both these teams were really sharp at defending beyond the arc, and neither of them seems to have anybody projected for success there tonight. And then just points wise, you have Denny and Devin Booker projected well above the rest. I don't know, 5-6 points for Denny over anybody else. Or no, sorry, almost 10 points higher for Denny over anyone on his team. Devin Booker, 7 points. So maybe a little 25 plus points. SGP gets you around plus 170. That is one angle I will consider tonight myself.
I like it. I don't see much here personally. I think the props that you just raised are probably it for me. And I think it makes sense that in a matchup between these two teams, it's really just the stars that interest me or maybe anybody here. I think for Portland, like any world where you win this game or make a run in the playoffs, it's going to come down to like very special performances from Denny. And Devin Booker is obviously a guy with upside that has been here before on the biggest stage. This is probably the team he's been on that has asked the most of him. And we know he's a guy that rises to the occasion before. Like, there is no Brad Beal, no Kevin Durant here anymore. Like, Devin Booker, it's your time to take this team further than they went a year ago. So I kind of like that that's where you landed after sorting through the models data, because that's really about all I see here. I could see both teams winning the game, and I don't envision deep runs for either, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. Not one that I want to get overly invested in. It's a fade or a stay away for the most part.
Yeah. Yep. All right. As we said, you got to know when to fire and know when not to. We're kind of 1-1 so far. This one, I've got something I love that I'll get to later, but Magic Sixers should be a good game. Two teams that I do think have some upside in the East here this year that should be pretty wide open. What's the model say?
So this is the higher seeded game in the East. Winner just goes right on through. Projected score makes it look closer than our model's probabilities, 112, 110. But we have a pretty solid 53% probability for the Sixers to cover the number, and then 57% for them to win, which is pretty strong. The edge is currently on Philly in at least the spread and the money line. You don't have to pay too much juice for a 57% probability money line at the best value, which is pretty nice. And then you're getting a high edge and a sweet spot on the spread, 52.7% and plus money, which is also really nice. The Magic's defense is really good. They should be at full strength with Franz Wagner back over the past couple weeks, ticking up his playing time since he returned. So I'm not going to like outright publicly buck the model here, but this is a tough win for the Sixers against a healthy Magic team that plays really good defense and without Joel Embiid. So I don't know if I'm going to get on the Sixers in this. There's probably more of a prop play for me if I'm looking at anything. Basically nothing here going on the total. In the props, probably a similar situation, except for this one that I think both you and I are pretty aligned on with Jalen Suggs. Over 5.5 total assists, 56.8%, 6.7 projection is pretty nice. did you want to talk on that one, Greg? Because I know you were pretty high on Suggs.
Yeah, so I have been a Jalen Suggs guy forever, since he was in college and hit one of the biggest shots this decade in the NCAA tournament. And look, I think the Magic, how would I describe his time with Orlando? I think the Magic have been very careful with him, if that makes sense. I think he's a guy, if you've watched this team in games that matter, they tend to like let him off the leash in a way. They just don't manage the rotation the same in the regular season. And I kind of vetted this personally a little bit because Jalen Suggs has played in one playoff series in his career. It was a 7-game series against Cleveland back in 2024. That year, he played 27 minutes a game over the full course of the season. He played more than that in all 7 playoff games that series, including games 5, 6, and 7, where he played 38 minutes, 35 minutes, 39 minutes. Now, am I saying that Orlando 2 seasons ago is ran exactly the way they are now? No. But if you look at Jalen Suggs' game logs lately, guess what? It's trending in the right direction. He just played 38 minutes against Boston. He's played 30 or more minutes in 4 of the last 6. Like, I just think that's sort of the break glass in case of emergency move. We trust this guy on the big stage in a way that we just don't need to when we're trying to keep everybody happy in earlier moments in the regular season. So I really do approach this. I remember making money betting Suggs props back in that playoff series. I think when you feel that you're just going to have a time on court edge, there's prop advantages everywhere with guys like that. And just in general, he's had good averages against the Sixers, 8.5 assists per game against Philly this year. Like I am all over Suggs assists as my favorite prop. I'm glad the model backs that up with over one assist edge there. But I really would play Suggs across the board, whether it's points, rebounds, assists. I'll be on points as well. I just think he might come close to 40 minutes in this game based on what we've seen from past playoff history.
Yeah, love that. 4 double-doubles by way of one of them was a triple-double by way of assist this year. Not bad for a guy who averaged 5.5 in the regular season. Only other thing that stands out to me really, real quick in the projections. Actually, I'm not even going to bother to pull it up because I'm going to have to click all the way back for the next game. But Paolo Banchero, we've got him at 22 and something points and like 8.6 boards, 24 points, 9 boards, rounding up. So right there in double-double territory, plus 145 or so on DraftKings. Sixers are bottom 8 defense versus boards this year. Might be a nice target for Paolo in this one.
Love it. Love it. All right. Let's move to our 4th of 4 here. Warriors and Clippers. This is the low seed game in the West. Winner will get the winner of Suns Blazers. And this is the only underdog that the model is on to cover here, correct?
Yeah, like particularly at a solid probability and a good edge. Yeah. And I think at the standard line and not the prediction market line at 53% for the Warriors. This is my least favorite game of them, honestly, just from a betting perspective, I guess. Not that the game shouldn't be good, but there's basically no value on the total. Actually, a negative edge here, which we've got the under on. Not really enough money line edge here on the Warriors for me. Who are limping in. Only win over the last 8 games of the regular season was against the Kings. They lost 6 games to other playoff or play-in teams, including the Clippers on the final day. But no one really played full minutes in that one, so I wouldn't read too much into it. Just looking real quick at our top projected guys, I would wholly expect Steph and Kawhi to go off. I mean, they're the best players on the court. Curry's a beast in elimination games. 10-5 record, 29 points, 6 boards, 7 assists per game in those situations. Clippers were nothing special versus the three-pointer this year defensively. They weren't particularly vulnerable either, but we've got Curry at 26.4 points and 3.9 threes. Probably a spot where if any time we see vintage Curry in a elimination game against the Clippers. And then my sneakiest, I guess, long shot play would be Darius Garland double-double. Plus 430 or maybe a little assist ladder. He's our top projected in the game at 6.9. And if we have Kawhi for 32 points or higher, we know he's not getting all those points unassisted. Garland's been pretty good since he came over here. A pretty important part of the offense. Correlates pretty well with our projection for Kawhi and a Sixers win, but obviously the Warriors have the edge to cover. But that's independent of that. So.
Yeah.
That's
Interesting
Sixers.
matchup here. The Warriors' pedigree in games like this is spooking me completely from playing what I want to play, which is all things Clippers. I think this Warriors team is dead in the water. I don't think you don't even want to call it magic, because it didn't take magic for a team with Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and Draymond to have all these runs together. But I just think it's a totally different psychological task for Steph Curry when he feels he has a team that can win a title versus when he feels he has a team with Brandon Pajemski in the starting lineup and Gui Santos. Like, I think they're dead. I really think they're dead. I think the limp to the finish line is who this team is right now. That's not me saying don't back the model here. If the model shows value, I endorse what the model says, but it really is just enough to keep me from playing this, which is one of my favorite ways to use the model. If it says something opposite of what I strongly believe, that's usually enough for me to abandon what I strongly believe, and more often than not, it ends up right. But I totally agree with the Darius Garland angle. I like the double-double at plus 430. Outside of that, like, Clippers props are about the only thing I'd be looking for in this game.
Yeah, I agree. Favorite angles across all four. Definitely the Heat money line, Suggs, and both Florida plays too. Look at that. And
yeah,
that's about it.
There we go. All right, beautiful. Enjoy the NBA play-in. On future episodes of this show, we will dive deeper into the NBA playoffs as this unfolds. But for now, we turn our attention to a Dinger Tuesday and a full evening slate of MLB. Dave's got 5 home run hitters that should be on the card tonight, and we're going to give you a little parlay at the end. Dave, let them know how this is going to work.
Yeah, so I'm just going to break down our top 5 today. You know, maybe we'll tweak this as we go along. We got a long season here, but FanDuel's got the Dinger Tuesday promo, so we'll focus on the home runs on Tuesday. We got a big slate too. You get your choice of a 50% profit boost or a bet reset, formerly known as a no sweat token. So I'm just going to break down the top 5 real quick and the matchups and the probabilities. These are not necessarily picks. These are the top 5. Here's what I've found looking around and checking out the matchups. And then I've got a little 2-leg home run parlay from my own personal guys that I like using the model and similar data here. So I'll just pull up our hitter projections, just the top 5. We're going to go through here. And it won't be uncommon to see a lot of these guys at the top most days. If we run into situations where we're consistently seeing the same top 5, maybe we'll explore a few guys outside of that. But even when we're doing King of the Court, we always saw a few guys crack in. Matchups will be important. It won't be the same top 5, but you're likely to see Aaron Judge, Shohei Ohtani, Kyle Schwarber regularly making their way into here. But Aaron Judge leads us off just over 23%. FanDuel odds are pretty gross. He's plus 172 last I checked. Number 1 in our home run projections after back-to-back days with a home run. 3 in his last 2 games, actually, up to 6 on the season. After a bit of a slow start by his standards anyway. He'll face the Angels and left-hander Reed Detmers tonight, who's a primarily fastball slider pitcher. Aaron Judge versus lefties this year, 933 slug, 1.308 OPS, and 3 home runs. About the same home runs against righties, so he's got the power against both sides, as we already know. Right-handed bats, historically better success against Detmers. And weather is pretty favorable in the mid-70s. Light wind blowing out last I checked in Yankee Stadium, setting up pretty well for Judge there. Kyle Schwarber was our second probability earlier, but he's dropped down a bit. So I'll go to our current second, which is Shohei Ohtani. He is now at 22.3% probability against the New York Mets. 5 home runs since April 3rd, 2 in his last 3 games. He's at plus 250, so you're getting a little bit closer to fair odds here, though still not quite as we would have him at plus 355, but good luck getting that on Shohei Ohtani ever. Pretty similar numbers versus lefties and righties. Primarily struggles against the 4-seam fastball at present, but not, historically. If you give him the 50% boost, by the way, you will make him a slight edge at plus 375, so that's one good way to use the boost is to take one of these straights and turn it into an edge play. Facing Nolan McLean, really good pitcher for the Mets, young pitcher for the Mets. Only 1 home run allowed so far, 0.83 whip through 16.2 innings pitched. Just very, very good stuff. He does use the sinker frequently against lefties, which is a pitch Ohtani's historically dominated, but he's still been very good this year. And the Mets are rocking a top 5 bullpen so far this season. So not going to get the easiest chances late in the game as we like to look at sometimes with other teams. But it's Shohei, and of course he's a unicorn. Third, we've got Giancarlo. He's climbed up just slightly in terms of the leaderboard, though his probability has remained unchanged at 21.4%. He's the closest to fair odds with his FanDuel price at plus 320. Model would make him plus 370. Only 1 home run this season, despite some really strong contact. Had a bit of bad luck. 2 really well hit balls hit the wall about a foot below going over. One of them was dead center, one to left field, both in Yankee Stadium, obviously a place he's familiar with, and where they're playing tonight. And he could have another similar chance to get one of those, hopefully actually over the wall. Same matchup as Judge, of course, and he historically hits his top pitches pretty well. And if you use the 50% boost on Giancarlo, you'll get him plus 480, which turns him into a massive edge play. Best value you'll get on any of these guys. Fourth, Yordan Alvarez. It's kind of funny that the Astros are getting the Rockies for their second series in just over a week. But they might not want to because they're in the middle of an 8-game losing streak, including being swept by Colorado in that span. But Yordan has been good regardless. He's got 6 home runs on the season, 100th percentile expected slugging, just absolute elite all-around metrics. He hits tanks. He'd have as many as 9 home runs in some parks. Not particularly relevant to tonight because it's not in this park, but it goes to show how much upside he has, even with 6 home runs already. Did not see if they finalized the starter for this game yet. Let me actually check that real quick. It was TBD with Michael Lorenzen probable, the most likely pitcher, which would be great because that's a very good matchup. Let me just check real quick if this has changed. Nope, still listed TBD. So check in on this maybe before you lock anything in. But Lorenzen has just frankly never been very good. He had a career high 25 dingers last year, 3 home runs this season, all against lefties. So keep an eye on the starter. But if it is in fact him, great spot. I'm pretty sure when he played the Phillies a couple like last week, he gave up like 6 earned runs in the first inning, 6 or 7 earned runs in the first inning. So really good spot for Yordan as Astros try to snap the streak. And then Kyle Schwarber here, 20.4% to round it out. He's also got pretty gross odds, plus 195 last I saw on FanDuel. 6 dingers this season, all off righties. He's also coming off a 2 home run game. Several guys tonight are. Might be a little fun side play with guys who hit 2 home runs yesterday. Fair odds here would be plus 350, so very heavily taxed, even more so than Judge based on fair price. Splits versus lefties this year are not very good. Just a 190 slug in 21 at-bats. But that should level out because his career numbers, he's got about 25% of his home runs over his past 5 seasons have come against lefties. I mention this because the Cubs are expected to start Riley Martin, who's a lefty, but probably just as an opener. He'll probably pitch 1 inning, maybe an out or 2 into the second, and then he's going to hand it over to likely a bulk reliever, who's a good chance it's going to be Colin Rea, who hasn't pitched since Thursday. He's allowed 20-plus home runs in each of his last 3 seasons, also a right-hander, and 14-plus to lefties in each of those. So much better matchup, potentially, in Schwarber's second, third, maybe 4th at-bat compared to his first. So I don't know if I'd take him for a first-inning home run or something. Not to say it can't happen because he's hit him off lefties, but he's just kind of struggling against that side this year. And if who we expect to play or do the bulk of the work, it's a much better matchup for him second, third time around.
Makes sense. Love it. All right. Yeah. If you use this tool, you are going to see these names frequently, but it's for good reason, right? I mean, these are the threats every single night, regardless of matchup. And sometimes they have great matchups. But in terms of looking beyond these 5, you do have a home run parlay for us tonight with 2 additional names, beginning with a Pittsburgh Pirate. Is that where you want to start?
Yep, it is. So I'm just going to pull up these two games here, isolate them in our projections, and go over these two. We are going to look at Brandon Lau and Zach Neto. Brandon Lau, I mean, the Pirates are in an incredible spot tonight. If there aren't a billion home runs in this game, it's going to be really disappointing. First of all, he gets a just under 17% probability from the Dimers model, which is the highest in this game. He's going to face the Nationals and Miles Mikolas. Mikolas has given up 5 home runs already, including a 4 home run game against the Dodgers. And the Nationals now have the worst bullpen ERA in baseball and have given up 19 home runs, the most in the league. Lau's a proven home run hitter in the past. Not an absolute 40-plus home run guy, but he's hit 21, 21, and 31 in his past 3 seasons, peaked with 39 some years ago. He's got 6 already this year, 3 in his past 2 games. Got a lefty. All 6 of his home runs have come off righties with a 945 slug and 1.465 OPS. Mikolas is a righty. Could be a little weather delay in this game, but no postponement expected. Should work out pretty well for Lau here. If you don't like him, you got Cruz, Marcell Ozuna, 2 very, very powerful bats as well. I didn't do very much digging into the numbers because what I saw for Lau was so good, and I liked it, and he was our top probability of the game. Didn't need much more to convince me in that regard. And then Zach Neto, slightly down here for the Angels against the Yankees. 14.4% from the model, not the highest in this game, but he is tied for the top 3 on the Angels. He's going to face Ryan Weathers of the Yankees, who's been a little bit lucky this year with home runs. He's given up 0, but is 2.1 expected on StatCast, as many as 3, depending on the park as well. Nito's always hit lefties pretty well, with about a third of his career home runs off of them. He's got 5 home runs this year, 1 off a lefty. Weather looks great, as I mentioned earlier, in Yankee Stadium for some fly balls, and he's been really solid against Weather's pitch mix of 4-seam, changeup, and sinker. Both guys ranked top 25 in ISO power this year. This was plus 2294 on FanDuel for the 2-legger. I played it with my bet reset. You could also play it 50% if you'd like, and get it at about 34 and change, 34.45 or so. But those are 2 guys I like tonight personally, alongside the model's predictions and how the matchups look.
Beautiful. Almost 23-1 for the 2-leg Dave approved Dinger Tuesday home run parlay. Let's sit back and watch some bombs tonight, Dave. I'm in. All right, before we close the show, we're going to do PGA Tour next. We talked Masters at the top of the show. Rory got the magical moment he was looking for, back-to-back. So hard to do. Puts the jacket on himself. But it got tight. It was at least interesting down the stretch. Scheffler missing that putt on 17. You know he's going to kick himself. Cam Young had multiple chances, even a lead early in that final round. But the good news, all 3 of our golfers to watch from the Masters preview did end up finishing T11 or better last week. Russell Henley mixed in there as well. So I think the model's firing on all cylinders as we turn next to the RBC Heritage. What do we got this week?
Yeah, I'll also just say I really like the 3 golfers to watch I've isolated this week. All really good stuff between results here and this year. So might be in line for another little good outing there. But yeah, we'll go through this one pretty quick. Harbour Town has hosted this event since the 60s. We've got no cut, an 82-player field, a huge $20 million purse. Very, very talented golfers in this one. Pretty tight, demanding layout, narrow fairways, lots of dog legs, sharp angles, tiny greens averaging just 3,700 square feet, among the smallest on tour. As far as course fits, driving distance, power, accuracy even are less important here than at most tour stops. Placement is more important as far as approaches are concerned. And guys who end up in the rough aren't necessarily in a bad spot. There are spots in the fairway that are worse because of the dog legs and the angles than it is to land in the rough. It's a very short rough by comparison to some of these more tough courses that these guys have played on. So ball striking and precise stuff is more important on approach. And if you can clean it up with your irons, you're looking pretty good. And honestly, the small greens can kind of mask some putting deficiencies. Those mid to poor putters might actually be able to offset some of their weaknesses with the small greens. Justin Thomas won this last year in a playoff, ended a 3-year drought for him. Don't think we're very high on him this time around. If he's even in the field. Oh yeah, there he is. I was like, geez, he wouldn't be the first time we had a late withdrawal this week, but 0.7%. Model is not on him very much. So going to just move to the value and the predictions. Scheffler leads the way here, 20% on the low side for him, I guess, but getting exactly fair adds at plus 400. So any type of boost you put on him would make him a fair play, according to the Dimers odds. And then moving down to our best overall value is our second projected winner, Cam Young, 6.6%. Fair at plus 1415. You can get just under plus 1800 at DraftKings. Really great form. Won the Players. Nothing worse than a T7 in 4 starts since. Shared that 54-hole lead at the Masters before finishing T3. He had a T3 in his debut here. 3 finishes outside the top 50 since, but his analytics right now check nearly every box. One of the most well-rounded players in the game. His form right now is basically incomparable to what it was entering the previous tries at this tournament, and a very clear positive edge from the Dimers model here. Always nice when your second highest probability has an edge to win. There's a few other guys in here with an edge that you have to dig around. I'm just going to highlight a couple of them, mostly the ones with the most notable discrepancy in the odds. And Akshay Bhatia here is another one, 3.3%. Oh, he's 2.3% to win now. It's gone down a little bit. That's kind of surprising, but still would be fair short of his best price, which is as long as plus 6,000, 5,800 on DraftKings. Boomer bust, sort of, but he's shown plenty of promise this year. Won the Arnold Palmer Invitational, signature event, T13 at the Players, T3 in Phoenix. He led after 3 rounds at Pebble Beach before settling for a T6. Little bit of form concerns, back-to-back miscuts with an overseas tournament, and then at the Masters. So it's kind of why you're seeing, maybe these odds are longer than his form and upside would suggest. But he's finished T18 here in 2024. That was his best. And he's just been really good overall. Top 10 in strokes gained total, strokes gained approach, putting, and he's a top 20 scrambler this season. As mentioned, this is a no-cut event, so he's got all 4 rounds to make his move, which is something we've seen him do more than once. Dimer's best boost here. I guess I did not save it. Why didn't I pull up the graphic? I don't know, but it's on Victor Hovland here. If you go to the article on site, you'll find it. We've got Victor Hovland boosted up to plus 4,000 on Bet365 at his 2.4% win probability. That's right at fair odds. You're not getting any edge, but we are taking him from a negative EV play into fair odds, which is nice. Historically, his putting has been a weakness, which isn't really an issue here, but that appears to be much better in 2026 anyway. Not very good off the tee this year, but that also doesn't really matter too much because it's mostly distance related, and that matters very little at this course. 3 top 20 finishes in his last 4 outings, T13 last year, which is his best result at RBC Heritage. Main weakness is below average scoring on par 4s and par 5s, which is something he'll need to do better at this if he wants to have a chance. He's not going to be able to contend with the top guys if he's not shortening his scores on those longer holes. But the upside is that he's really good on approach, and his solid scrambling should at least keep him in a contention if he can steal some of those birdies on the 4s and 5s. And as mentioned, our boost gets him to a fair odds play. So you're taking him out of the negative and closer to the positive. And then the last guy, bit down here, but not too far. Nikolai Højgaard. I will say, by the way, we're not pulling in FanDuel odds on here because our odds provider has an issue with FanDuel's API or whatever right now. He is 100 to 1 on FanDuel, and at 1.5% to win. That's about plus 6,000 or so. He was 1.8, so he's gone down just slightly. That would have been fair at plus 54.50 or so. But it's just a massive discrepancy. I mean, it's almost double. And this year, he's had some really, really good results. A solo second, T3, a T6, 2 other top 25s across 8 events. Missed a cut or 2, but lots of more upside than floor. He's top 10 in strokes gained total, 12th in approach. Very important skills here at Harbour Town. His biggest weakness is below average tee to fairway accuracy, which once again carries less weight here than it does at virtually any other course on tour. The possibly biggest, not red flag, but caution, I guess, is this is his debut. He has no course history here. But if we're just looking at a similar recent scenario, we had Sam Burns at 1.5, 1.4% last week, and he was 100-1, and he had a share of the lead after the first round, ended up finishing T7. So when you got a really, really big long shot with a very big odds discrepancy, it is a must look at for me. And the Dimers model says you should be looking there too. My golfers to watch, just going to rip through these guys real quick. I'm not going to get into them very deep, but Russell Henley, Sahith Theegala, and Sepp Straka all have several top 10s or top 5s this year. All have very good results here in the past with top 10s before. All playing good golf in spurts, and all three should be on your radar this week. Keep an eye out for our top 20 boost, which will be on site in an article and on social. And as I mentioned, I will try to do a head-to-head boost with the predictor when I dig into that tomorrow. It's, as long as there's value, good matchups.
You gotta love it. No letdown week for the Dimers golf model as we move from the Masters to the Heritage. Thank you as always, Dave. All right, let's close the show with what else is going on with Dimers this week.
You guys know we got hockey playoffs very, very, very soon. Last 3 days of the NHL regular season right now. NBA play-in is today, tomorrow, and then they face off for the final decisive matchups on Friday. Lots of soccer this weekend. No golf next week. It is a team event, the Zurich Classic, which our model doesn't like. We will be back for the following week with the Cadillac Championship signature event, another presumably loaded field for that one, which should be another fun one to dig into.
Make your money on the golf model this week is what you're saying, Dave. That's what I heard.
Of course.
All right. Good job as always. Thank you for all the work that goes into the show. Thank you to our listeners for making the show possible. Make sure you do get that Dimers Pro 3-day free trial only on the app. Gamble responsibly, everybody. We will see you again on Thursday.
Listen up.